And it is Saturday, and usually you're like, girl, you weren't here Tuesday, but like I told you, I had my birthday on Tuesday, so I was at a knife skills class at the Green Hills MCPL culinary center that they have there with the library, and I was there, you know, being reminded that my knife skills need to be improved. So I did get some really good advice. First, I'll show you the fit right here. I've worn this before. This is like one of my little TikTok dresses, but I love this dress just because, you know, you've got kind of got it like it's gathered up here and then it just flows down here. And I feel like, you know, if I throw on one of my red cardigans or something like that, I can wear it to church, or, you know, I can just maybe wear it like in the library in an air conditioned building, whatever, or I can just kick it without, you know, without the cardigan, either way. But I love this dress and it's great to cook in. This reminds me of like, kind of like a Saturday morning, Sunday morning cute brunch dress. And so yeah, that's what I'll be rocking as I show you my new cast iron. It's like my new cast iron frittata pan. Now the frittata pan that I was using before, it was a non-stick. And you know what, shout out to it, but it started like, I saw a scratch and I was like, you know what, it's time for you to go. And I had been eyeing this cast iron. So when I bought the non-stick years ago, it was on sale. Like I think I got it in 2019, 2020. It was on sale. Like I think I got it for like $15. It was way cheaper than at the time the cast iron frittata pan. And so, or you know, omelet pan or what, crepe pan, whatever you want to call it. But this kind of, the price went down. So I was like, you know what, happy birthday to me. And I purchased it for myself and I got it, I think the day before my birthday. And so I'm all happy about it. So I thought, you know what? Why not? Because it's Saturday morning, make a frittata. And so I, you know, went to, oh, you can't see that, but I went to Aldi's and I got a lot of vegetables and that kind of thing. And so I'm like, okay, I got some really good deals on vegetables. So I need to make sure that I'm cutting things up and cooking them in a timely manner. Because sometimes when you have an embarrassment of riches in your refrigerator, you're like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And then like 5 days later, it's looking all wonky and stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get to it. So I kind of, what I do when I menu plan, I've got on this plate, I've got tomatoes, right? Because I get tomatoes just about every time I go to the store. And then I've got my 3 different types of thick cut cheese, which again, you get them at Aldi's. So I think it's like a cheddar and I wouldn't say it's cheddar Monterey and maybe a Swiss, something like that. But so I've got this. I'm going to use this in my frittata. I kind of like to do these 3 different types of cheeses when I'm doing a tortilla or like some kind of wrap or like a frittata. I don't like to necessarily do that when I'm doing a salad. So I'm going to put this off to the side here. So as I mentioned, I've got my tomatoes. I have my baby Bella mushrooms. So this time, instead of doing caps, I went ahead, because these were pretty big mushrooms, I went ahead and just sliced them. Because you know what? I can always slice a mushroom. Now, the mushrooms aren't that hard for me to slice and make them look, you know, pretty presentable. But, and then I've got this red onion, a little bit of the red onion, because I kind of like that pop. I know some people prefer to have white onions or yellow onions in their frittatas, but I like the red onions. It's got that kind of like sweet little spicy thing. But also with this grocery haul, I have garlic, bell peppers, and I have shallots, but I'm not going to use them in the frittata. I'm going to save those for, I'll probably be cutting those up tomorrow or Monday and, you know, putting that, like preparing that for, you know, whatever I decide to make on Tuesday. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start off with putting in, again, I've already kind of sprayed. I put like the spray. Whoop, that fell over. Onto this pan so you can kind of hear it sizzle. Now I'm going to do like the tomatoes. Now listen, I'm pretty free with the frittata thing. There's still some seeds in these tomatoes. Like I washed them and stuff. But when it comes to frittatas and even tortillas, if it's wrapped in there, I really kind of don't care. I'm not super picky. Now sandwiches though, I'm like, no. The sandwich I'm very kind of precise about. Just want to make sure. Also, when you're cutting your mushrooms and stuff, now this is one thing I don't always do, make sure that you're separating them. That helps too. Just kind of like throw this around, put this last thing on here, and then I've got my onions here. And because this is not a non-stick pan, I don't have to worry about like, you know, scratching it up or whatever, so I've got, I'm kind of doing like metal on metal here. Now, get this together. I'm kind of just trying to spread everything out. With this like a nice little thing here. Okay, here we go. And then I have got, look, probably put this a little bit more in the middle. I've got a little bit of black pepper. Now, I just like do a grinding thing. So I'm going to like have the base here. That's where I'm doing the seasoning. I'll also put a little on top. I would say maybe like a teaspoon or two. Again, it depends on your preference. Now this is garlic and herb, okay? And I got this at Aldi's. Okay, there we go. So we've got that going. And I think what I'll do is I'll do about, let's see here, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Just a little bit, just to kind of get things flowing here. Okay. And I purposely just, because I want to see this. This is my first time using this pan. Like I washed and everything, but I haven't used it. So maybe I'll do 2 tablespoons. I kind of want to see its capabilities, just using non-stick things versus also adding a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So I think 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. So we're just going to kind of let it here, and actually we'll get a real thing here. I'm going to get this. I want to make sure this cooks, that the oil kind of spreads around. So this, to me, this is kind of like something savory. I thought about using the sumac that I have because I still need to use that up. But I'm like, no, this is not a sumac kind of meal for me. Now, I have used sumac in frittatas before, but I'm like, no, I'm kind of feeling like, because I'll be eating this tomorrow. I kind of feel like I just kind of want something like pretty basic. Okay, so this is a cup of liquid egg whites. I'm going to put another cup. I felt like it was a 2-cup job, but I wasn't sure. Again, like I said, this was my first time cooking in this pan. So I kind of want to see what the capabilities are here. Okay, I think, here we go. 2. Okay, so, hang on. This is pretty full right now. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is pouring this back. Good luck. Okay, most of it poured back in there. Okay, so now I know it's maybe like a cup and like a little bit. So that is good to know. Let me just wipe this down real quick. Okay, so I wanted to put like a little soap on there. Okay, I'm going to put this away. And again, this is why it's really important to, and again, I wanted to do this on camera, but when you are actually doing things, and that's why it's like, don't experiment. So if I had to make this for somebody on the fly, I mean, again, most of my friends and stuff are pretty, low key about things. But if I was bringing this someplace to an event and I didn't have the idea of the depth, that would not be good for me. Okay. Now I am back. I hope everyone is having an amazing Saturday. We're just going to I think I have a cover here. See if this fits. Yes. This is like a standard size. Whoa. It's a little too, this is a little too small. So let me go ahead and, I know I've got a bigger one. Here we go. Okay, that fits. Again, like it's live. It's, there we go. Now that would have been nice to know. I probably should have, before I started this live, measured to see how big the, what the capabilities of the pan were as far as like a lid. So yes, making a note. So now I know next time I use this, I got to use this really super big lid, but I'm kind of wondering if there's I'm going to have to look that up to see if there's like a lid that fits, but if not, that's fine. This is kind of, we're just making do. And with the price of groceries, it's okay to make do right now. Okay. Something else you could do with this as this kind of cooks, and I want to go ahead and probably put this on a little bit of a higher temperature right there. Something else that you can do is you can kind of figure out, like for me, this is part of like a meal prep situation, but like if I were actually going to serve this, I'd want to figure out what else could I make with this. If I kind of wanted something sweet, of course, I got that I've got my little waffle maker thing over there, Big Bertha. I'd probably, throw in some waffles as well. And then if I it's like, okay, so I've got my waffles, then I've got my frittata. okay, what do I want to drink? Or do I want to even put like maybe a few pieces of bacon or something like that? I could also, if I wanted to, throw in some pepperoni in there, but I kind of want to make this like a vegetarian frittata. But I could, because I always have pepperoni, because girl, bacon got really high. You know, it's on sale sometimes, but you really have to catch those sales. So in a pinch, I'll just throw in like, you know, 8 pepperonis in there. And that's kind of like part of it. I've got like the pepperoni situation going on right there. Or if you're someone that prefers like sausage, you could also do, Link sausages were actually at a pretty good price for a while. I've noticed in the store that they've gone up, but you know, whatever you want to do, you could even throw in a little bit of ground turkey on the side. You could do like things I've done is I've done a frittata, and then I've done like a little ground turkey slider with it, and you know, seasoned and all that other kind of stuff. I've done that, or I've kind of like you know, crumbled the ground turkey already cooked, of course, the already cooked ground turkey into the frittata, and you know, just like for a little extra boost of protein. But you know, some people don't like their, you know, they don't want sausage in frittatas because it's like, no, I like to have things separate. It's a texture issue. Totally understand that. But again, if you don't have those texture issues, crumble in some sausage, crumble in a little bit of ground turkey, you know, whatever meat you have in around. I don't like to put like grilled chicken in this, but if I had it, I wouldn't be mad. But I just don't like to kind of like do the grilled chicken with frittatas. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a texture issue, but again, if someone served that to me, I would eat it. But just my own preference, like in my house cooking, that would not be my first choice. Now, what I could do though is, you know, have the grilled chicken, serve it separately. I'd be fine with that. Something else that I've seen, because I'm on TikTok, you know, looking and YouTube, looking at like, you know, for ideas and inspiration, is something I've sort of already been doing, but I feel like maybe I could do it better. You know, I've got breaded chicken in my freezer, just because that's like my emergency chicken. That's kind of like because I work from home. That's like my, oh man, what am I going to have for lunch? Oh, I can just throw this breaded chicken. And in the wintertime, I'll throw it in the oven when it's hotter outside, because you know that oven can bring up the temperature in your house. I'll throw it like in the air fryer. You know, I've been known to slice it up, but I started like cubing things a little bit. And I thought, you know what? Sometimes I don't want to like, because with the slices, you know, you've got to kind of like do all these extra cuts. Sometimes it's more convenient for me to put in like maybe 3 of those breaded chicken patties into the air fryer. You know, they're seasoned, all that stuff, and then just cube them up and then throw them in a container. And then that's kind of like that's kind of like my go-to, like, oh wait, I need like a little bit of protein, you know, on the side or something. And that kind of comes out in a pinch. Also, it's helpful for salads. So, you know, chicken breasts are not cheap, but you know, the things that are cheap right now are drumsticks. And so I got like a pack of 12. And so I baked them up. I had 2 separate pans, you know, whatever. I baked them up, and I was like, okay, I'll just, you know, be eating this. And I thought, you know what, I kind of want a salad, but I don't want to just have a salad and then do like, you know, a drumstick. You know, I want to go ahead. So I stripped, you know, I put on some gloves, and I, you know, had a cleaver, and I kind of stripped everything. And with chicken, you want to make sure that, you know, they've got little marrow bones and stuff. You got to make sure all the bones and stuff are out. Okay. Like that's the first thing. Like make sure all the bones are out if you're going to, you know, strip any kind of, you know, drumstick situation. Or what I could have done as well is just thrown in one of those breaded pieces of chicken into the air fryer, chopped it up, thrown it into the salad. So again, there's always options. You just got to think. And even if you're like, I just have, and people say this, chicken nuggies, I just have some nuggies. Well, you know what? You can always slice those nuggies into like 4 pieces. You know, you get 4 of those chicken nuggets, put them in the air fryer or the oven, chop them up, you know, chop them all up and all that kind of stuff, and you know, mix it into with your salad, and there you go. Okay, so it's kind of a way, especially if you're like down to your last 7 nuggets, and you're like, man, this has got to stretch, this has got to last. That's what I would do. I would just chop it all up and throw it in a salad, or chop it all up and throw it on a sandwich. Listen, during my really, really broke, you know, college, law school days, whatever, like sometimes I would do stuff like that. I'm like, you know, some breaded chicken thing would be on sale or whatever, and I would like put it in the oven, and, you know, and if I got down to like just like maybe I had like 3 of them left and I had like 5 days to like, you know, eat, I'm like, okay, let's just, you know, I wouldn't really cube them up as much as I would just like kind of slice them up into like, I'd slice them up into like thirds and kind of like, okay, I would count out. I'm like, okay, I've got 4 little pieces of chicken in this like, you know, bowl of rice. Okay. So I've got my 4 pieces of breaded chicken in the rice. Like I would do stuff like that. Cause you know, that's what you do, you know, when you're a college student. Okay. So we are looking at this and it's, hey, it's puffing up pretty nicely. It's still not done. We still got some more time with it. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of like raise the temperature, a little bit so it can kind of cook a little faster. But you know, that's kind of what you do. Now let me just kind of come up because I am not. Hello, Mr. Joe. I hope you're doing well. Oh my gosh, you guys, I go to his page and the food that I see. Oh my goodness. Aunt Lainey needs an invitation. Okay. Y'all need to invite me to your house because y'all are eating like royalty over there. Okay. And you know, the thing I was talking about, like, you know, making do with like, you know, odds and ends ingredients. Okay. The chef in that household knows how to do that. Okay. So shout out to the chef in that household. Okay. You guys, y'all are living really, really well. So I hope everything is going well with you. Okay. So, you know, as if you just joined me, I'm cooking this frittata in my new cast iron frittata crepe pan. And what I'm going to do with this is that, you know, when it cools off and whatever, I'm probably going to chop this up because I'm going to either put it in tortillas and do like a breakfast burrito situation, or what I'm going to do is I could also mix it with a little bit of rice that I have, like, you know, a little bit of a rice bowl. I know I always forget to bring out these ramekins. Hang on, I'll show everybody my ramekin. So I put it like in like about this much rice in here, and I would just so like this amount of rice, then, you know, chop this up and mix it with the rice, obviously on a plate, but that was just kind of giving everyone an idea of this is kind of like how much rice there would be. Also, something else that I could do with it is just, you know, chop it up and just eat it on its own. Sometimes I don't want it in a tortilla and I don't want it in rice. I just want to kind of eat it, you know, on its own, but kind of like chopped up. I don't want to slice it. What I like to also do is I have a pizza cutter, and I'm telling you, pizza cutters are like your friend. They are your friend. Let me just take a drink here. Because you can kind of put them into triangles. And if you're feeding like, you know, kids or older people, you know, or people that don't like to just eat like one of those bowls, they kind of want a definition with their food. There's people like that. We all love them. Okay. So that kind of like, you know, and also it kind of gives you a nice, elegant presentation as well. Okay. So you just like, you know, I could slice it like a pizza and probably do about 8 slices. I think this is like the size of a medium pizza. But something else I also plan to do is I actually plan to put pancakes in this pan. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Or attempt a crepe. No, I've attempted crepes before that kind of went into the pancake, the realm of the pancake. But you know what? I consumed them anyway. Just because we do not waste food in this household. Okay. Something else you could just, as I did when I started this off, I just put in veggies. You could also use this to kind of do like a nice savory veggie situation, but you don't need to have this particular kind of cast iron crepe pan to do that. You can do that in a small cast iron skillet or a big cast iron skillet, whatever you have. I just have been eyeing this cast iron crepe pan for very many years, and I couldn't justify buying it because I had already purchased the nonstick one that was on sale. But then when that died, I was like, okay, you gotta go, because I don't want to, you know, cook on nonstick things that are scratched up, obviously. Let me just get a cast iron because this is kind of going to be more of like a better investment for me. And now most of my pans are cast iron. So, you know, I kind of want a cauldron. Like I've got 2 more nonstick pans. One is a paella pan, and I have not done my Midwestern paella in a long time. And I call it Midwestern paella because I do not want to, like, you know, have people thinking I'm making authentic paella. Although when I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I had friends who did that. So I did help to stir and I did help to kind of get the ingredients together. But I did not, you know, formally cook it all. I can't say, man, I cooked up all the paella and everybody. It's like, no, I helped in the process. I've done the Midwestern version of paella. which is actually pretty good. I did not use fish though, because especially someone who I lived in Rhode Island for a couple of years, I'm like, it's not fresh enough. Although, now in 2026, it's a little bit different. It's easier to get fresh fish here pretty quickly. But back then, I just had doubts after moving back here from, Rhode Island and stuff like that. So now I kind of don't use, so I might use some frozen shrimp. Well, before I was using frozen shrimp, but in that Midwestern paella. But really, it's kind of like any kind of meat thing that I could find, and put it with like the rice and the saffron rice and all that, and that was a process, and you kind of had to be willing to kind of go through all of the necessary steps. And again, that was just the Midwestern version. Okay, that wasn't even the authentic version. Okay. And so just to go like really quickly about the cooking classes, because I will be talking about it on my Aunt Lainey's Kitchen podcast. But the first one I went to was, it was a vegan cooking class, and it was so cool. Now they cooked, it was like a noodle in peanut sauce. Well, I can't eat peanut butter. I'm not allergic to peanuts, but peanut butter for some reason does not agree with me. So I did it without that, but I used the vinegar and there's like a vinegar and garlic and something else and soy that they use. So I kind of put it there. It was actually pretty good. There was a tofu situation. And I have not made tofu in a very long time. Okay. So that's on my list. I kind of want to like maybe, a couple times a month, dabble in some tofu. But it was really, really good. And I really appreciated that they cooked the noodles, because I think they used soba noodles, because those are not easy to make. And, I don't want to be sitting here like, cooking up noodles wrong and then like wasting food and all that stuff. So they prepared the noodles, but we did the tofu, and we kind of stirred in the sauces and stuff. And then we got a to-go packet, like a to-go box, and they sent us home with the food. So that was Monday. That was the vegan cooking. It was a lot of fun. It was like maybe an hour and a half-ish, because what they did was they ran through, kind of like vegan alternatives, like kind of a little bit of the history, a little bit, it was like a nice overview. And then the last part of the class, we actually started cooking it. I'm so glad that they explained things. Now, I've been cooking vegan for a while, but not like anything extensive, but just, but I mean, it was like an overview. Some of the things I already knew, but I did get some, new ideas for recipes. So that was kind of fun. I first heard of veganism when I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico back in 1994. And I was like a line cook in the snack bar. Now keep in mind, I had traveled to California by this time. I had traveled to DC, but I still was raised in Topeka, Kansas, right? And so I was like, I knew vegetarianism, but veganism, I'm like, what's that? So they're explaining everything, like no animal products at all, like all this stuff. And I was like, okay, so y'all should have seen me, like the first couple times I did it, I was like, oh man, I don't even know if this is right. But then after that, I got better and better, and I got pickier about this stuff than the vegans. I was like, hang on, that part of the grill might have been a vegetarian part of the grill. Let me just go ahead and like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, let me do an alternative that's like, is not on the grill, but maybe we can kind of like heat it up, like all this stuff. Like I really started drilling down and locking in on the whole kind of thing, with all the rules and everything like that. But as I get older, I become more of a flexitarian person. Like that's kind of how I was when I lived in California. So I kind of I'm kind of like going back to that. Because when I first moved back here, I was like, barbecue, like all the things I wasn't really eating, extensively where I was living before. Now I can have all the barbecue. And so, yeah. I went down a barbecue spiral. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I was barbecuing. I think my first week back here, probably for the first couple months, I was having barbecue like 3 times a week. It was crazy. It was crazy insane. I probably wouldn't change a thing, but it was crazy insane that I was doing that. Okay, we're going to check in on this. Okay, I can see it's kind of like curling. I just want to check in, make sure. Let's see here. Okay, it seems like just probably a few more minutes. It's not quite, and you got to make sure, because sometimes with the egg whites especially, and again, I did put like a cup and like a little bit in there, and then there's also vegetables in here as well, so sometimes it takes a little bit longer to cook, and you don't want to pull it out while it's, it's still obviously like not cooked. Okay, so just like a few more minutes and I'm going to turn it down to low. So we'll do low and slow there. But, and then the knife skills class, to jump back to the classes, that's what I do. I just kind of take these little journeys. So to jump back to the knife skills class, that was actually on my birthday. And, you know, I do a lot of rough chopping, and on certain things, I know I have to chop things finer because it has to do with like the you know, the taste of the dish. So I want to make sure I actually like chop something down and that the pieces are even as possible and as consistent. But I kind of like, you know, I'm like, okay, first of all, I mainly use my chef's knife, and I'm like, okay, so I'm doing that right. And I do use paring knives sometimes, but I'm mainly using a chef's knife. And I also use a cleaver, and they were talking about using a cleaver, how sometimes with certain things it's easier. I'm like, yes, I definitely feel vindicated there. And, but it's hard when you keep doing, like, I can cut with a chef's knife for like hours, but that cleaver, after an hour, I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and take a break. So I was like, okay, you know, I get it. Like on my cleaver, I'm going to use it for some things, but that's why sometimes I'm like, I got to switch to the chef's knife. I was kind of thinking it's because I was not experienced, but no, like that's like a normal thing apparently. But, so yeah, I have some challenges. If I were to give myself a grade, I would give myself like a C minus. The cucumbers, I actually didn't have a problem with. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. I kind of had like, you know, I had a shaky start with those, but then once I got it together, I locked in. But the onions, you know, I'm going to work on that. Also, I think there's probably some more YouTube videos I can watch, but now that I've actually taken a knives class, I kind of know which path to take. So I'm going to turn this off. So that is actually pretty exciting for me. I'm really geeked up about this knife class. So I'm hoping to take it a year from now. I'm going to work on my skill set. So when I come back in there, I can at least go from like a C minus to maybe like a B plus. Okay. We're just going to baby step this thing. And it really does have to do with, you know, paying attention and not having the anxiety. And the chef instructor kept saying, hey, it's okay. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're going to, you know, you don't want to throw this out because it doesn't look right. Just, you know, do the best you can. But yeah, I'm going to lock in and get better at that. So I'm very excited. I got to take those classes, and they were both free through the library. And then I also cut potatoes, and potatoes that wasn't too bad. We got to keep everything that we cut. They put it in bags for us. And then we got this really nice, hang on, I'll come off camera here. We got this nice bag right here for free. So that's what I carried my treasures home in on that second night. I love it. It's kind of like one of those hot cold bags. So yes, I love that. I was pretty geeked about that. Like I was texting people like, oh my God, I'm taking pictures of the bag and stuff like that. And that's what happens when you turn 52, because you get excited about stuff like that. But anyways, definitely would take those classes again. I'm not sure if they have those classes on the Kansas side, if the Johnson County Library does that. But I mean, like that system does that. But yeah, it was actually pretty cool to, you know, be in there doing like, you know, doing all the cutting things. And they were really big on safety, and they had like, you know, people walking around. So the chef taught, but then he had like, people walking around, like interns and then other employees. Like there were interns there when we made the vegan dish. And then the next night it was employees that were there kind of like walking around, giving us advice, you know, or praising us and being like, oh, hey, you got like a nice little cut there. And so, yeah, it was really cool. And I'm hoping that more communities can do these free cooking classes, because the library and your community center, so important. That's why, you know, I support mine wholeheartedly, because they are doing so many cool things. And that's a whole podcast I could get into. That's my Quaint and Cozy Casey podcast. Now, I'm going to take this off, because I'm going to go ahead. I've got this cheese here. I'm just going to kind of throw it on top. And because I don't necessarily see what's going to happen is with this cheese, it is going to kind of like, because it's hot. So I'm going to do it like this, and it will kind of melt down. I don't necessarily need my cheese to be all the way melted. Like I'm fine with it, you know, just getting like a little bit of a melt and like kind of on the top. When I was younger, I like to put the cheese, like I would have already put the cheese in there, and it would have been a cheesy thing. But I noticed that, you know, when I reheat this, like if there's too much cheese in it, it gets really weird and gummy. So I kind of like putting it on the top. That's why, like I've learned, like putting it on the top is, you know, definitely a better go-to solution for me than putting it like, you know, in the midst of the white, like the egg whites. Sorry, I'm like slow today. Like the egg whites, you know, before. I just kind of like, so it's already kind of doing a little melty thing without being all gummed up in there. Because now, as I've gotten older, I think about, okay, what's this going to taste like reheated? Okay. Or what's this going to taste like? And now when I put these in, like the tortillas, if I do like a breakfast wrap or a tortilla, or even, you know what, something else you could do is you could do a breakfast sandwich. You could, you know, I've got a panini maker, or you can use a cast iron skillet to kind of like, you know, put it on top and do the wheat bread or whatever bread you like to do. But, I don't necessarily heat it up after that. Like I just kind of like, I'm fine with it being kind of like, you know, on cold or whatever like that. I'm fine with that. But I have, you know, sometimes I will, you know, go ahead and throw it, you know, in the air fryer, or just go ahead, you know, after I've toasted it, or just go ahead and, like, but a light thing. Okay. If it's already toasted, it doesn't need to be, you know, a super high thing. Or putting them in the oven, basically whatever you have, you can put it in the microwave, but the bread gets a little weird when you do that. But yeah, whatever you got, you know, you can use it. You just have to kind of figure out like what the most optimum way is to use it. Okay. So on that note, you can find me at laneyskitchen.com, where you see the reviews. I'll also post like the links to my podcast, because, you know, sometimes people just want to do a one-stop thing, and I totally got you. I also post these lives and the podcast on my YouTube channel. So I probably update that a couple times a month. And then also on my YouTube channel, I've got shorts of things I've cooked, or if I go out and I review something, or sometimes I'm kind of like, if I'm in a cool restaurant lobby. So generally it is food related. If I see some really cool like kitchen utensils, it's all food related. So you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, the Tickety Tockety, Facebook, with Aunt Lainey's Kitchen. So thanks everyone so much for your support. Y'all, my podcast, I think people are finding me on, I think it's Apple. It's not because I have my little analytics, because, you know, I like to kind of see what's going on. And I've noticed that, like, I'm thinking I've got some Apple people that are supporting me. So thank you so much. And when I tell you that, you know, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, it went from like, you know, I'm like, okay, this is a respectable number, to like shooting up. I'm like, yay, thank you guys so much. It seems like my demographic are women, I think 35 to 44, and then also men in their 50s and women in their 50s as well. I'm not getting the younger people, but that's okay. I don't get the young people out here being young and free. They're not thinking about Aunt Lainey, and that is okay. Okay, y'all, that is okay. Okay, take care, everyone, and I will be back here on Tuesday, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.